Welcome back, Tulare fans. This video is going to be a discussion about high availability HA in regards to the Tulare. Let's take a look at the diagram. In this diagram, we have a single appliance right here, and we're going to make this an HA unit. We're going to add another appliance and introduce high availability. So before we get into the design criteria and pros and cons of each, I do want to mention that there's a document on support site that does have all this information in it, in addition to some more. But first, let's take a look. All right. So in parallel inline HA, we have active standby, and the Tulares are inline. The port configuration will be fail to block, and typically we always advise higher spanning tree cost fallback connection in case both Tulares were to fail. You know, if we're mentioning high availability, we want to go high availability to the nines. But, you know, some customers do it, some don't. It's up to you. But what parallel inline HA gives you is it gives you failover in under a second. And it also gives you the ability to not only failover on appliance failure, but also to monitor ports and cables so that it gives you a full scope of failover capabilities. Should an adjacent device fail, or even an Ethernet cable. Okay, so we have that one. Now we also have another parallel, type of parallel is a one-arm parallel HA, and that would be if the Tulares were out of path. Now in the diagram you saw they weren't out of path, but if they were out of path, you know, get redirected to the router, and all you'd have to do is simply have an HA VLAN and add the secondary unit. Now this is really just another offshoot of parallel. Failovers under a second, very easy to implement, and it can give you that redundancy that you need. Alright, and then the last is the serial. Now in serial HA, we'll have fail to wire bypass pairs, and then instead of being adjacent to each other, the active standbys will be in line. So in this scenario, all you're really preventing against is box failure. There's no way you can protect against, say, this cable failure or an adjacent device failure. All you're protecting against is cable failure. And the failover will take a little bit longer. It will take anywhere between 5 to 15 seconds. However, the implementation side is a lot easier since all you're doing is sticking it right in there and then adding a cable to allow communication between the RAC PHA protocol. Okay. So these are some of the designs. In this particular one, we just decided to go parallel, and we just added one right there. And there is some more requirements to configuring HA, and the requirement is for every interface group I add to HA, I'm going to need two unique IP addresses, and one IP address for each appliance so they can communicate using the RAC PHA protocol. And so I'm going to need a unique IP address per interface group that we're communicating on. Okay, so in this situation it will be just one. I want to take you to the configuration and let's configure it. And I'll show you the configuration for serial. It's really not that much different. It's really an easy setup. So if you go to sites and open up the Raleigh site, and down here at the bottom is high availability, we open that up. Get those audits down there, and then we say edit, and we're going to enable high availability. Now when we enable, it's going to ask for the secondary box's name. Typically I'll just use the name Raleigh secondary. Failover time defaults 1000 milliseconds, 1 second. Shared MAC, this is the MAC that they're going to share. Swap primary secondary, it means the secondary is going to be your lead box. If both boxes are up, the secondary is kind of the lead. Primary reclaim would be the opposite of that. Primary is kind of the lead. If the secondary is up and the primary comes up, primary will take control. These are off by default. And then use serial configuration. If I was going to use serial, I'd check this box. At this time, we're not. So one of the design requirements for for being able to do this, like we discussed, is we're going to need a couple IP addresses so the rack P can just talk with each other. So let's do port 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'll add in a couple of IP addresses. 101, 10.10.10.102. Hit apply. All right. Now, and down here we get an audit, and I'll tell you what that audit is for. We didn't change our fail to wire to fail to block. So it says we have to change our interface group up here. Thank you for the notification, from fail to wire to fail to block. There we go. Apply. There we go. And now it looks great. One other thing I want to show you with the high availability configuration is the external tracking. Now if I wanted to track on all of these, I would say, alright, I need an external tracker IP. Maybe that's my gateway, and I can find my gateway on port 1, and that's where I'm going to track to. And then I can set all those external trackers to on my different ports and make sure that that Ethernet cable and those switch ports are good to go. But this is how we configure high availability. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you for watching.